Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the disappearance of Maura, and it's to try and find out whether she wanted to disappear or something more sinister happened to her. This was a suggested case which was suggested by Zoom, so thank you for that. I really appreciate any suggestions you guys have. I'd just like to let you know, I mean no disrespect whatsoever with regards to anyone I speak about today. I've simply got the information off the internet and compiled it into a video for educational purposes. Maura was born on the 14th of May in 1982 in Hanson, Massachusetts in the US. Her mother and father were called Frederick, who was also known as Fred, and Laurie Marie. She had two brothers and two sisters, and they were raised in very much an Irish Catholic household. Maura was just 6, I believe, when her parents actually did split up, and she basically would go on to pretty much live with her mother. Obviously she'd still visit her father, but that's where she would reside. She attended the United States Academy in West Point, where she would go on to study chemical engineering. And while she was there, she actually went on and stole $5 worth of makeup, which was a code violation, and actually ended up getting her kicked out. Now, whether this was on purpose, we're not really sure. It was $5 worth of makeup. She didn't steal a lot. So people do believe that maybe she did this to actually get out of the academy. She transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and she began to study nursing. And this was where she would actually meet her boyfriend Billy. Maura actually disappeared at the age of 21 in 2004. And nobody knows what happened to her to this day. This case was actually dubbed the first crime mystery of the social media age. Basically, Facebook was 5 days old. It had only just launched. Twitter and YouTube, things like that, didn't even exist. A few months before she went missing, she actually admitted to having used a stolen credit card to pay for food in a few different restaurants. The charges were brought, but they were actually dismissed after 3 months' good behaviour. The evening of the 5th of February 2004, Maura was in work, and she actually had a conversation with her sister that morning, and this did lead to her breaking down into tears. This conversation wasn't known at the time, but it was later revealed that her sister was having troubles with her husband, and Maura, being very emotional over it, just broke down at work. After this breakdown, a supervisor came to her desk, and he basically said that she was completely zoned out, she was non-responsive, and when he asked what was wrong with her, she just remarked the 2 words, "my sister." This was 4 days before she disappeared. 2 days later, her father decided to visit Maura at university. Basically, he was going to go and buy her a car, or help her to pick out a car, to go and buy a car, because she desperately needed one. Her car was completely on its last legs. So that same night, she dropped off her father at his motel room, and she borrowed his car. She was going back to the university to attend a dorm party. At around 3:30 AM, whilst returning to her father's motel, she actually ran the car into a guardrail, and it caused a massive $8,000 worth of damages. Now, it does seem that there wasn't any evidence that a sobriety test was done, which I do find a little bit odd. So anyway, Maura was actually driven back to her father's motel. Luckily, he did find out later that his insurance did cover the damages, so it wasn't that huge of a deal in a sense. He didn't have to actually pay the damages. So her father was leaving to attend some business elsewhere, and he actually rang Maura to remind her that she needed to fill out the insurance papers, and that she had to get the accident forms from the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and she agreed to do this. On Monday, the 9th of February 2004, which was the day after she'd spoken to her father, in the early hours she actually used a PC to look up directions to Berkshires and Burlington in Vermont. Now, it was known that when she was a bit younger, she did often go out on hikes with her father quite a lot, so this wasn't really out of the ordinary that maybe she wanted to go up to the mountains, go for a hike, have a break for a little bit, stay over for a few days. It wasn't out of the ordinary for her. Now, although this wasn't out of the ordinary, some of the things that she did certainly were. She went on to contact a few different condominiums, some in New Hampshire, to basically rent out. And by all accounts, they told her that they needed a lot more time for her to be able to book, that she was trying to book it too soon, and they basically couldn't accommodate her. She then tried to book another hotel. She contacted this hotel, but again, it seemed like she wasn't able to get a room there. They basically didn't rent it out to her, by all accounts. When it got to around 1 p.m, she actually sent her boyfriend an email, and this email said, "I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promised to call you today though. Love you, Maura." She then went on to make another phone call about a condominium that her family had previously rented. The call lasted around 3 minutes, and the owner didn't end up renting it to her either. It was very strange how she was obviously trying to get away for a little while at least. She was trying to rent all these places, but having no success. And we just don't know why. She went on to make a few calls and emails that day, and one of them included to a professor at university, which she informed them that she was gonna take some time out, spend a week away, because there was a death in her family. But that wasn't the case. There was no death in Maura's family. She never told anyone where she was going, or why she just seemed like she just wanted to up and leave. Why would you send professors an email saying that there's been a death in the family when there hasn't? It was all very weird. And no one knows why she did it. That's the main question. She was doing well at school. She had a caring boyfriend by all accounts. What made her feel the need to just go? She went on to call her boyfriend and promised that they would chat later on. One of her friends did actually say that there was something that she needed to get away from and kind of just think about, and possibly that's the reason why she felt so desperately that she needed to go. And there was evidence that she did plan to go away for quite a few days. So the campus police did eventually go on to search a room, and what they found was that all her stuff was in boxes. Her paintings and whatever was up on the walls was all taken down, everything was bare. So she was planning on leaving school by all accounts, from what it looked like. I have read somewhere that there was actually a note left on the top of a box, which was a printed off email sent to her boyfriend that said something to do with them having relationship troubles. How true that is, I'm not sure. But again, why would she pack up everything if she wasn't going to leave school? If you were going away for a few days, your dorm room would have been fine to just leave as it was. At around 3 p.m, she put some of her belongings in her car. It was a 1996 black Saturn sedan, and she drove off campus in her rundown, barely running car. At around 3:40, she went on to withdraw $280 from her account, and that basically left it with pretty much nothing in it. She had 2 jobs part-time, and I believe the money was going in for these 2 jobs shortly, so she was going to get paid soon, but withdrawing all that money basically left her with nothing else in her bank. She then stopped at a liquor store. She spent around $40 on various different alcohol, and then she used her phone at 4:37 p.m. to check for any voicemails. And this was going to be the last ever recorded call that was made on her phone. Around 7:30 p.m, she actually crashed a car. She went into a tree on a snowbank off Route 112, and she actually ended up crumpling one side of her car's bonnet. A nearby resident heard a thump, looked out of the window to find out what was going on, and basically saw the car. So they reported it to the sheriff's department. Another neighbour was later saw someone walking around the vehicle, which possibly could have been Maura. Then a third neighbour, who was actually a school bus driver, he was on his way home from work. He pulled up. He stated that he saw a young woman in the car who was alone, and he would later identify this as Maura Murray. He also stated that she was shook up, but not visibly injured. There was no bleeding. She was shivering because it was very cold. Like I said, it was snowy, but other than that, she seemed all right. He basically said he'd call the police for her when he got home, but she said that she had called a recovery service, and she stated that this was the AAA, but The AAA didn't have any records of her ever calling them. So again, she lied about calling the recovery service. She didn't want him to contact the police for some reason. He did also offer his home. Like I said, it was cold and she was cold. He basically said that she could come back to his and obviously stay warm until she got some help, but she refused. She just wanted to stay inside the car. The police arrived really quickly. I believe it was about 10 minutes later. But Maura Murray had vanished. No one was inside the car. No one was around the area. When they looked in the car, they found that it had these red stains on the carpet, which they believed to be red wine. The person that last spoke to her did corroborate that she didn't really seem to be intoxicated at all. Her phone, along with her debit and credit cards, were actually missing from the car, but her other belongings were still in there, like jewellery, clothes, things like that. They were all still in there that she'd packed up. And the items, the cards and the phone would never actually be found, and they would never ever be used again. Also, some of the alcohol that she bought while she was out driving the car was missing too. Around 30 minutes later, a contractor actually reported seeing a young woman moving very, very quickly eastbound on Route 112. This was around about 4 to 5 miles from the discovery of a car. This would actually only be reported 3 months into her missing persons case, because basically the contractor got confused over his dates, and it was only when he looked back through his work files that he realised that he'd actually seen a young woman on the same route not long after the accident on the same day. So obviously he told the police. And that's basically the last we know about what happened to Maura Murray. She just vanished. The next day, the police issued a be on the lookout for Maura. Her father, like I said, was out of town, so he was made aware of this by her family later on. And they then issued her as a missing person. They obviously began looking for her. The police, her family, volunteers, I believe there were hundreds of people just searching for her around the crash site, in the streets, the surrounding area. They were just looking everywhere for her. They did also bring in dogs, and some of the dogs did track the scent from one of her gloves to 100 yards away from the car towards the east. However, they did eventually lose the scent. It's been suggested that this could mean she left the area in another car. It's a possibility. Whilst on a flight to come down to the area to help look for her, Billy actually received a voicemail. Maura possibly tried to call him, but obviously he was on the plane, he couldn't answer. His phone would have been in flight mode, so it would have gone to voicemail. And this voicemail, when he listened to it later on, was of Maura crying. They traced the call back to an AT&T calling card, which Billy's mother had bought 2 of them for Maura previously. After an investigation, they went on to trace this to the American Red Cross, and they considered the calls not to be related. Her family don't really believe this. Why on earth would the Red Cross call Billy, of all people, crying down the phone? Just didn't really make sense. Apparently, Billy also had problems with his phone that could sometimes cause people just to go straight through to voicemail and his phone not ring. So possibly she could have rung earlier, and that could have been the reason why she went through to voicemail. The family appeared on TV. There were media appeals done. They did ground searches, air searches with thermal imaging. They brought in tracking and cadaver dogs, but they didn't find anything. She basically just vanished into thin air. They went on to search for an entire year and found nothing. But the investigation with the police would never really stop. Not until they found what happened to her. In 2007, the police offered $75,000 for anyone with information or anything like that as to her whereabouts or what happened to her. I do believe tips and things came in, but they didn't lead anywhere. They were not related to the case. Throughout the years, people have done searches of the area themselves. They've brought in private investigators, dogs. They've just done so many searches and have not really given up, which is such a good thing because we do need to find out what happened to her. In 2012, a YouTube user with the username Mr.112Dirtbag posted a very strange video that was titled Happy Anniversary. And there's actually a lot of people out there that do think it's linked to the Maura Murray case. The video shows some guy laughing quite manically. You may wonder why this is related to a case at all. Well, it was uploaded on the 8th anniversary of her disappearance, and again, they entitled it Happy Anniversary. And the similarities don't really end there. The 112 in the name was Route 112 that she actually disappeared on, and Dirtbag was what her father had dubbed whoever had taken her in the media. So I did my research into this man, and the man in the video was actually called Alden Olson. And he actually did do a couple of videos that people have said that it's potentially related to a case. He uploaded a video actually entitled Maura Murray, and it basically just showed a ticket to Brenton Woods Mountain Resort, and the issue date was the 11th February 2004, which was just 2 days after Maura went missing. He then did remove this the day after posting it. Now, Alden has done a lot of blogs around crime, and the Maura Murray case is one of them. Apparently, Alden was looked into by the police very extensively, but they didn't find anything to link him to it and to enable them to feel the need to investigate him further. So I guess because of this, people just believe that he's a very strange man who kind of just wanted to insert himself into the Maura Murray case. Why, you may ask, I have no idea. Yes, if you're interested in crime and things like that, I don't understand why you'd put up that sort of video that could possibly put suspicion on yourself. I don't know why anyone would do that, but there you go. With all this said, the police and her family did dismiss it as just a cruel, sick joke. Now, I'm not going to lie, I found the video very creepy. Of course, it was most likely just a twisted joke, but the way in which he laughs, suddenly stops and then winks at the camera, well, yeah, it just kind of freaked me out a little bit. In 2019, Frederick Murray did state that he did believe that his daughter was dead. He believed that she was abducted on the night she went missing, and I do believe this is the second time he mentioned that. I believe the first was in 2014. There have been some developments that could prove promising, however. Frederick, with supporters, organised a search of a basement with the new owner's permission. This basement was near where she crashed her car, and basically the previous owner of the house literally didn't answer the door to them. They knocked on, I believe, after receiving a tip in 2004 when she disappeared, and the owners didn't answer. They never opened the door. They just never were able to gain access. So he said that 2 separate visits with cadaver dogs and a radar scan kind of identified something under the basement. Now, he said he currently feels stuck. Police said that they did investigate that area, but he doesn't really believe that. He wants them to dig up the basement. He basically believes that if there are some remains down there, and that if they're not his daughters, that they're someone's, and whoever they are, they deserve to be found out who that person is. Which he's right. Now, I don't know if there's human remains down there. There very well could be. The only thing we can do now is wait and see what happens. See if they will ever pursue it and possibly dig up this basement to see if there is anything down there. Was Maura abducted by a local? Was she then murdered in this basement, which is just beside the crash site? I mean, who knows? It's a possibility. But it's also a possibility that she really wanted to get away. She just left and never wanted to come back. Once more, her entire room was packed up, like she was certainly planning on going away. The only thing I don't understand is she's packed her bags. She's told the professor she's going away for a week. She's planned all that, but then why would you leave all your stuff packed up in your dorm? If you were planning on not coming back, you would surely take it all. She's gone through the effort of packing it. She wants her stuff. Why would she then leave and never ever come back and leave all that stuff behind? That's the one thing that I don't understand. But at the same time, maybe she planned on having a week's break. She packed up everything because she was planning on just going anyway, eventually. And while she was out there, maybe she decided that she didn't want to come back. Maybe she thought that stuff all there could just stay there and it was better if she just didn't come back. Or maybe somebody actually picked her up while she was out wandering around with no car and this person had ill intent for her. I mean, these are just theories on what could have possibly happened to her, because the truth is, no one knows. If you have any theories of what happened to her or what you believe, do let me know in the comments. Looking into this case, you very much see kind of two sides to her. There's a side that her family describe, the Maura that everyone knows, and then there's her actions that kind of show a very different Maura. To this day, there's no evidence that she ever told anyone what a destination was. Who even knows if she actually chose one? And this case has kind of been obsessed over by so many people over the years. Mainly over the time of her disappearance, it kind of took over the internet a little bit. It would seem that with regards to at least the online aspect anyway, there was never really such a thing as a cold case. And I do believe that that's the main reason for it. Looking back at this case, it actually does kind of show the evolution of online sleuthing, which today we are so accustomed to. I believe that the sheer amount of people that were interested in true crime and kind of looked into it over the internet sort of originated from this case. I really don't know what happened to Maura, but I do also really hope that one day we do find out. Like I said, her father does believe she was murdered. And it's mainly the not knowing what's really, really horrible. This case happened 16 years ago now, and there's been no sight of her. There's no nothing. She's never used those cards again. There's just nothing, and it's awful. I do hope she's still alive and that she did run away, because then at least she's the most terrible thing hasn't actually happened to her. If that is the case, I truly do hope that one day she'll gather the courage to let her family and the world know that she is okay. And on the opposite side, if it was the worst that actually happened to her, I do hope that that comes to light, because then whoever committed this crime could possibly be caught and brought to justice. And her family will finally find out what actually happened to her, and they'll get the closure they need. If you guys have any more suggested cases, please do let me know. But anyway guys, that's all I have today on the disappearance of Maura Maria. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!